there were a lot of crunchy bits. We know this. Every time we up level, there's always going to be crunchy bits and snafus and discomfort and why am I doing this? And maybe I should be the Walmart greeter and, all the things in between. When I
I'm
say
pretty sure they do have
unintentional,
a less stressful life.
I wish I could tell everyone that right from the get-go with my business, I knew exactly where I was taking it and I had this grand vision and whatever. I didn't. I was just.
Welcome to 7 to 8, our special series on 7 and 8 figure speakers. In this interview series, some of the hottest speakers in the industry who've made over 7 figures in a year or less will uncover their twists and turns in their adventures, helping you to avoid the potholes and stick to the fast track. Welcome now to center stage, our next guest speaker. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedelec, and I'm super glad that you're here with us today because I'm here with my most amazing guest, Jennifer. Jennifer, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Awesome. So give us a highlight of who you are and what you do for business.
Well, I'd love to. So I live an hour north of Toronto in the forest. I'm a little literal hermit in the forest, having left the city. So that's been an interesting journey. Especially running an online business when you have to use satellite internet. Turns out that always seems to, whenever I have the most important webinar, like live webinar or live challenge or something that I'm running for the company, right? That's when it decides to get cloudy or blizzardy or whatever. But no, I love it out here. I live here with my son, my husband, and my dog. And interestingly, this house, it was only after I moved here, I was living here for about a month, and I realized this was in my vision book. I have too many ideas to do a vision board. I have to actually do a book that I literally flip through and read every day. But I happened to stumble across it, and I was like, oh my goodness, I have a loft. I have a sunken living room. I have an open concept thing. I have cathedral ceilings. I have, all these things, right? Mm-hmm. And this had been on my vision board for probably like 5 years before it came in. And it didn't even occur to me, even when we looked at it. I just knew I really liked the space and my husband really liked the space. And I share that just as a fun fact, because we forget sometimes. I know our brains think that things shouldn't take as long as they do. And I wasn't married to it, but I just share that as a thing for everyone listening, right? Because we do this in business as well, where we think, oh yeah,
right? Why hasn't it happened yet?
I have an event that I want to fill, and I want 100 people in the event, and I know 50 people that have large influence, and between my list and everyone else's list and Facebook ads, surely I'll get 100 butts in seats. Oh no, it's not that, with like one email. No, it's not that easy, right? All the time. Of course, there's other things we manifest quickly, but anyways, I have been in business for 2 decades, and I've bought and sold companies, acquired companies, and so on. But my legacy company is Soul Journeys, which is a very woo company. And we're the #1 spiritual training school in the world. And we've trained over 100,000 people in over 100 countries. And we're all about elevating consciousness there. And so we focus also on elevating wealth consciousness and business consciousness. And so that's a business that even if I tried to walk away from it, it just doesn't let me. I don't know if anyone else can relate to that, where there's some businesses that just
keep coming back.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So how did you get into Soul Journeys as a thing?
My parents were very spiritual, and I went for my first past life regression with them when I was 4. And so that was my life. I didn't know other people didn't live the way I did. Because when you're a kid, you literally think every single kid is having the same experience. So I didn't know my experience was different. I didn't know anything. I knew that I knew things that made people feel uncomfortable, because I would say things and they would gasp, because I would know, half an hour before the phone would ring what someone was going to say. And I would say, oh, so-and-so called and they said this. And then half an hour later, that person would call and say these things, right? And my maternal grandfather, was a psychic medium with the police and would solve crimes with them and saw a lot of horrific things. So he was over the moon to have a granddaughter that was as woo as I was. And he was sending me all of these very deep, the kind of spiritual readings you read where it makes you cross-eyed because it's so deep. And even today, when I read those books, I go, ooh, what are they saying? So he was sending me these books on the bus from Ottawa. in the, like, you know how heavy books are in boxes, right? And he was
Right.
putting them on Greyhound, and I'm talking like 20, 30 books at a time in these boxes on Greyhound buses that my parents would have to pick up. Anyways, it was funny, but off I went to school, and I learned very quickly, oh, I don't know what's wrong with me. Something must be wrong with me.
Oh,
I'm making people feel very uncomfortable around me. I don't know what I'm doing. And so I spent a great chunk of time. And even I think even in business, we do this, right? Where I still will catch myself going, oh, who do I need to be in this situation so people feel comfortable around me? I'm so used to people
mhm.
feeling uncomfortable around me, either because I have a strong presence, just I have a strong leadership energy, but I also know things, and people know that I know things. But, not unlike many of us that are intuitive, we're not out there all the time trying to read people's energy and read people's thoughts and stuff. If anything, we're trying to shut that down when we're out grocery shopping, or, at a baseball game or something. Like, we don't want to be on 24/7. But anyway, so I never viewed it as a gift. I actually thought I was mentally unwell. I didn't even know how to articulate it, the things I would see.
Mm.
So I just kept it in, and it felt like a curse. But the more mad and irritated I got about it, the less it went away. So I knew that wasn't the strategy. And I thought, well, what if I just leaned into this and got curious? And then it was fun. And I went to university to train as a forensic investigator. And being an overachiever and watching my dad be a hard worker and learning that you have to work hard for the sake of working hard and work hard for what you have and all the things, I thought it would be a genius idea to try and collapse a combined degree of 5 years into 3 years. And it turns out that that makes your life spin out of control. And that's what my car did on the highway one day. And so it was a pretty traumatic car accident. But the gift in that was that my mom did reflexology, and she started doing trades because, of course, I had limited funds putting myself through university. And so she did a trade with a Reiki master. And soon after, I all of a sudden got into Reiki. And that kind of combined the two worlds for me, the nice blend of energy and intuition. But I still followed this conventional path. I didn't know that there were jobs for people like me. And I had no reference point for the fact that I could have a business. So in I started realize once I got into forensics, I realized, oh, I could have a business. I started actually meeting people that had Reiki businesses and stuff, but I still didn't know I was an entrepreneur. That felt like alien speak to me. Like, who are these aliens? What do you mean you don't even wake up until 10? I'm waking up at 6:30 to go to work. Like, what are you even talking about? And but I mean, the burnout is so high in that job, right? And so the job was very rewarding, and I learned a ton. I essentially got a PhD in every possible psychology you could, because you're just dealing with so much stuff, right? Like psychopath, sociopath, borderline personality, all these things, and going to court all the time and being an expert witness and having to defend my position and all the stuff. And but I thought, oh my God, if this is going to be my life for the next 40 years, just having enough to get by or not quite having enough to get by, I can't imagine my quality of life. Like, I'm already burnt out. I already have no energy to do anything, and I have no money. I have either just enough or not quite enough. So I made the decision to take the leap. It wasn't as easy as it sounds, as we all know, right? There's that waiting period. For some of us, it's 10 years. For some of us, I think for me, it was about 2 years. And ran out of all the excuses and took the plunge, thinking that my business, I was just so happy to do what I loved. And the fact that people were paying me, it was never about the money. I really just thought I would be teaching Reiki and doing Reiki sessions and doing readings for the rest of my life. I didn't have a vision. And very soon into it, I ended up having a six-figure company, and that was before social media, right? So that was me using timeless business principles and learning a lot from that time. And then, with enough people, I say this jokingly, right? But hounding me to create a certification program, which I had no intention of doing. I didn't even know how to do it. I didn't know I was allowed to do it. I had all these stories. And I know we all get this in business, right? It's usually our clients that ask for things that all of a sudden, like, the best things are born out of what our clients are asking for, right? I tried to launch something with my good old ego brain, like, oh, everyone's going to love this offer. Crickets, right? But clients ask for it. It's like, oh, so here we are, 20 years later, I have an 8-figure training school that was totally unintentional. It was never my goal to be an 8-figure CEO. It was never my goal to have this big, huge company. Of course, as I evolve though, and I know you get this, Michelle, and everyone listening, like money is just, the more we up level our money, the more we're just really up leveling our leadership, right? And so when I made space for even more leadership, I saw even greater possibilities. And then staying the same just isn't an option when you have a growth mindset, right? So now we're on track to be a 9-figure company, and maybe we'll get there and maybe we won't, but at least we have a new goalpost essentially, right, to be striving towards.
Nice. I love it. So many people are striving to have their 6-figure, their 7-figure company. And you're like, no, I did it accidentally. I tripped over it.
I don't even say that to be flippant, because I mean, obviously there were a lot of crunchy bits. We know this. Every time we up level, there's always going to be crunchy bits and snafus and discomfort and why am I doing this? And maybe I should be the Walmart greeter and, all the things in between. When I say
Pretty sure they do have
unintentional,
a less stressful life.
I wish I could tell everyone that right from the get-go with my business, I knew exactly where I was taking it and I had this grand vision and whatever. I didn't. I was just because I still had an employee mindset when I started my business. I was running a lemonade stand. I was basically a freelancer. Come and give me an exchange. Come and get my lemonade and pay me, $60 to come and lie on my Reiki table, and I'll give you lemonade for an hour and then you can leave. And then hey, if you want to come back to the lemonade stand again, you know where to find me. Like, I was so ridiculous. Oh, and the amount of money I probably left on the table by letting people send me checks in the mail, because I didn't have PayPal back then. It was literally like, find a way to send me cash and mask it in the mail, because so many people, by the way, were all over the world. Send me a check or pay me in person if you're going to see me in person. That's how I did these exchanges, right? And I would get checks in the mail like 6 months after the fact. I'd be like, oh, I haven't heard from that person for like 6 months. Oh, wow. That's like just ridiculous stuff, right? And so by how I was running, based on how I was running my business in those first few years, I have no right to have an 8-figure company. But that same woman, because I look at her almost like a different person, right? Like, I recognize her, but I also feel like I know she's a part of me, but she's also kind of outside of me, because I can't imagine running a business like that. And like, that was just not sustainable. I essentially was running like in a job again, right? I remember 5 years into the business going, oh my God, this same feeling that I had in forensics, I'm having now. I can't take vacation without losing money. I'm totally bottlenecked. I'm building a liability instead of an asset. And I love what I do, but I don't really love what I do right now. And so when I changed my business model, that's when things changed a lot. But there was, of course, a lot of upgrades, a massive upgrade. I had to really relinquish any employee mindset I still had. I had to relinquish any poverty consciousness and ways that I was anchoring that into my company. I had to surrender and actually hire my first person, because I was bottlenecked, and that's a whole, yeah.
So how much were you at revenue when you hired your first person?
Oh, so what happened was, when I changed my business model, I went from about 150 to 200K a year, and I all of a sudden leaped into like 600K a year. And that's when I know it's ridiculous, but I had all this. Well, first of all, lone wolf syndrome. It's easier to do it on my own. I had all kinds of unconscious things, and I just share this because I know it's relevant to so many of us. My parents were very good with broken promises, so I just learned that actually, if it's going to get done, it is going to be me, because why get my hopes up if someone's just going to break a promise to me anyways? And so I didn't know it at the time, but when I look back on it, right? And my very first person I hired, I retained her for 10 hours and she did nothing. And we scheduled a call so I could find out why she had done nothing yet. And she decided to call me with her 5 kids and her friends' 5 kids from the McDonald's playroom, so that I couldn't hear her. And she knew I couldn't hear her, so we couldn't have a conversation. So then I had no choice but to end that thing at the end of the month, right? And she's like, I don't know what happened. I really wanted to work for you. I just, for whatever reason, I just couldn't do a single thing for your company. And I'm like, well, that's actually a load of caca, but
it's really hard to work effectively with 10 kids at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Unless you're working for McDonald's.
And no judgment around the kids, just like, any,
But
you
come
don't
on.
have to be a
I had
rocket
one and
scientist
one
to
was way too
know.
many for me.
Totally. But you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that you don't have a session with the person that's hiring you to do stuff for them when you know darn well that's going to be impossible, right? When she chose the time. But the point was that it was hilarious because she really was a reflection. I hired my belief system. Nobody can support me. It's easier to do it on my own. Someone's going to break a promise to me. And she was that. It wasn't even her. She was the gift. Truly, she was a gift. And I recognize it right away. And I'm like, okay, so now you need to get clear on what I wanted. And my next hire was better until she wasn't, right? But she was always going to be better than the last one. And then I got clear on that person. And then I hired my next person. And I think those of us in the online space, we know that there's certain roles like VA roles and stuff are going to be pretty transient, right? So now I have a COO that does all that. She hires, fires, manages them, and I have a relationship with them, right? But I don't get overly attached because I know that they're going to come and go.
And I think that's an aspect of business that people don't really understand. It becomes a difficult relationship to have if you've never had one of those relationships before. Are you treating them like friends? Are you treating them like acquaintances? Are you treating them like a mentor and trying to guide them? Like, what does that relationship look like? And a lot of people don't realize that that relationship translates into your corporate culture. And I mean, one, you have a choice over that. And two, a lot of it is subconscious if it's not. If you're not looking at it directly consciously, then it becomes subconscious decisions that you're making within your business.
Absolutely. And just, to be clear, we're clear on our company culture, and I on team meetings, and I actually let my COO run those so that I don't undermine her, right? So she can still hold her authority with the team. And but I show up because I want them to feel like I care about them as people, and I love them up with gifts on their birthday and holidays, and send them special bonuses and stuff, and send them notes of appreciation. Like they're humans to me. I respect them. I appreciate them. But I also, not unlike clients, I have a lot of clients that have been with me for like 20 years, but I also don't get attached to anyone because I know that when it's time for people to move on, they will move on. And that wasn't always easy in the beginning, right? Those first few times you have team members that you think, you're building a relationship with, and then it doesn't work out. It feels weird, but now after 2 decades of this, right, it's just different. My core team member, like my COO or my program coordinator for my other company, those are the people that I'm really loving up and building a relationship with, because they are basically my right hands, right? So I need them. We need to be in synergy with each other. And in fact, my COO, interestingly, I had a human design chart done for both of us. And it turns out we're a perfect human. Like all of the things that I have that she doesn't, we complement each other perfectly. And we joke that we're kind of the A team. We work really, really well together. But I'm a generator. So I am the ridiculous person that fits 3 days into one day. 5 a.m. to 11 a.m., 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., 5 p.m. to 11 a.m. or 11 p.m. Each of those gets treated like a day, and each day has distinct activities in that day, right? So I fit basically 15 days, I guess, into a 5-day work week. And I'm like their Energizer bunny when it comes to that, which is why I can run other companies and whatever. And she's a manifesting generator. So she wants to get everything off her plate. And I'm like, stop trying to get everything off my plate. Like, stop firing things at me. I have to respond, and I have to be really able to respond. And when my calendar's this busy and you're giving me things to respond to that can wait, it actually irritates me, right? So that's what prompted the thing, because she's so great, but I was like, I'm not working for you. Like, this project's 2 months out. Please stop. I appreciate your diligence and your efficiency and stuff. I really did. But at the same time, like, coming at me, sending me an email that's non-essential, and then the same day saying, did you get to that yet, when it's not due for 2 months? Like, I can't have that, right? So with love, I don't work for you. And it's not that you work for me per se. I don't mean it to be like a superior thing, but anyways, we work really well together. And I can honestly say I'm in a place where I finally have a team that really, we're very cohesive. And I think too, like even the people that are in more supporting roles, they know me as a human. I think when you're doing, I remember this from forensics, like a lot of the secretaries are having to type our notes, and they had vicarious trauma because we had to type up really crazy notes, right? Like I'm not going to obviously share it here because it will create trauma for people, but they were totally overlooked, and it's hard to do a job that's very repetitive and menial and that you're not attached to, or you're not attached to the people that are in the storyline of what you're participating in, right? So I know that it's important for them to know me as a human and care about me and want to do these tasks because it's helpful to me. It makes my life easier to serve more people when they're helping me with these things that are in my zone of competence and not my zone of genius. And I also need to be on these calls to remind them the importance of the work that they're doing, right? When you're editing an audio for me and uploading it to a group mastermind, that actually is hugely valuable. You're changing someone's life. As soon as they listen to that audio, their life and their business changes. So you're an essential part of transformation, right? So I always want to be present for those calls. They don't start to burn out on some of those things that I personally don't want to do, in part because I'm a visionary. Just please don't bring my head down into all this minutia. It hurts my head. I really suck at it. But also, I have a commitment to myself that I only work in my zone of genius, right? And I really try to stay on top of that. So
Love it. Well, and would you say that is the biggest thing you would change, or the first thing that you would change if you could go back and kind of do it all over again? Not to say that you would change anything. I've said it that way.
I wouldn't have even known how to delegate. I didn't know how to delegate. I have learned how to, I had to learn the difference between abdicating and delegating, which I know we all have to learn. But I had to even learn what it is I could delegate. I was so used to being the janitor and the bookkeeper and the marketer and the salesperson and the technician and the COO and the visionary and all the things. I didn't even know what I could. Just like I didn't even know that business coaching was an option for me. I was 5 years in before I hired my first coach, and breast investment I made, right? Because that's what helped me quadruple my income. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have known what I know now, even if you had have told me. It would have been too advanced for me, right? Like I needed to progress into it. But I will say that my ongoing commitment to myself, and I'm extending this to all of you because I know that this is just great reminders for all of us, that I'm always checking in life and business, right? So my husband, for example, he loves having stuff everywhere. And I'm like, there's a reason why they make furniture with drawers and cupboards. And maybe you could use them, please. That would be awesome. So I joke, it's an ongoing joke with us. But the point is I say, like, I'm not here to manage stuff. I'm not here to manage time. I'm not here to manage expectations. I'm not here to manage other people's behavior and emotional immaturity. I'm not here to manage all of the things we might manage in our personal life. I'm not a manager, I'm a CEO. And then I look at my business and I say, okay, where am I operating as a manager? And it can be easy sometimes, right? It can be quicker to just do certain things on my own. It can be easy to fall into things. Now, I'm not talking about micromanager. I'm just talking about like zone of competence is being a manager. Zone of genius is being a CEO. There's very few things that we can't delegate. The only things I can't delegate is, for example, being here with you. I could get a body double, I guess, but that wouldn't be respectful to you, right? I have to be the face of the company. I don't even have to be the person that delivers service in my company. I can hire associate coaches to do that, or I can automate that stuff, right? And just automate my IP. But I do have to be the face of the company, and I do have to hold the vision of the company and then communicate the vision and make sure that the vision is coming to life through the team members that I hire.
Nice. I love that. And is it possible, just because you said have to, and sometimes when there's an emphasis on have to, I'm like, really? could it be like a Coca-Cola where there is somebody there that is the visionary, somebody that is kind of bringing it out, but clearly that's not a personal brand. It's it's a concept brand. Is it possible to have a consulting company or training company or a transformational company and have it as not as a personal brand, or do you think
Yeah,
it's
and
essential to
that's
have
what
that?
that's where we're moving to now. The other company that I just acquired last year, I've made a point of not being the face of the company because I don't want to fall into old habit. And I could catch myself. I was so excited to get this company. I'm like, oh, I get to develop an agency model. I've never developed an agency model. Yay, this is exciting. It's fun. And yay, I don't have to be involved in it, meaning like I don't have to be the service provider and stuff, right? And but it was a great teacher in helping me see the remnants of where I was still getting involved in things that I didn't need to, because these are our babies, right? And also, I mean, we're investing time, money, and energy into these things. We have a vested interest in making sure they're successful, because none of us want to lose money in a business venture. None of us want, some of the hiccups that we've maybe had over our journey. But yeah, we are building it. That's why I'm saying about it being a legacy build business at this point. It is a training school. Yes, I've been the person that started all the service delivery for a long time, but all the IP has been created, and I've actually just posted before I hopped on with you to bring on another associate coach, right? And really just start stepping out of the things. I still like talking to people. I have a very unique relationship with my one-on-one clients. Like I have a very unique payment arrangement with people, right? To be mentoring at that level, because I still really like helping people that have, like, one of my clients has 1 million people on her email subscribers. So for me, I could work with hundreds of people in a group program, or I could work with her knowing that the shifts that we're making together affect 1 million people. Right. So I still like doing that. And like I said, we have a unique payment arrangement where people can pay me a lot of money every month, or they can pay me less money every month and then do like a performance-based percentage, right, on what they're generating. So so that is still enjoyable to me. And I know for some people they're still surprised that I do that, but that, to me, it's, yes, I'm being compensated, but it still feels like a give back.
Nice. Love it. So talk to me about the different ways that people can interact, because obviously there's people that are going to want to be straight up clients of your students, somebody that's going to want to be your student, somebody that's going to want to be your direct client. Like, how many ways are there that somebody can interact with your business, particularly in Soul Journey?
Yeah, we have a lot of digital trainings that I've created. And so people can, if they're just looking for information, right? And transformation for sure. Like I'm always putting activations and like healings and clearings and stuff in various audios. Then we have the certification program. And so we have that digitized, but if people want it live, they train with one of our teachers, right? And they can just contact them directly. And then I have an exponential client attraction mastermind. So that's for people that are anywhere between, let's say, 3K a month all the way up to about 10K a month, but they have the potential to scale, or I should say leverage, and get to let's say 500K years, depending on where they're at in 6 months. And I have the 7-figure club mastermind. That's a fun place, right? Because that's where we have these kind of conversations that we're having now. It's not a teachership model, that's a leadership model, right? Most of my containers are teachership models. And then I have another program called the Exponential Wealth Academy, and people from all levels. I mean, we have people, multi 7-figure earners in there, and then we have people that have jobs and people who are retired. The scope is really interesting, but the information is applicable regardless, right? Because it's still going to get you in the gotchas, right? All of the stuff that comes up around the money and getting the money, or the issues out of our money tissues, is going to come up. And so that is a lot of fun as well. And that's being turned into a certification program. So you're hearing it here first. By the fall, that's also going to be a certification. So yeah, but as you can see, right, like I don't even need to be involved. And so thank you for calling me out on that, because
I was just super curious going, really, do you have to?
yeah, no, I don't. I'm choosing to, I guess that's what it is. So now I get to, and I love that you do that, because one of the questions I live in is, people always say, oh, I'm not aligned to that, or that person fell out of my life because they're not aligned. No, we're always aligned. It's not a matter of are we aligned, it's what am I aligning to? Our outer world is always going to show us what we're aligning to, whether we're conscious of it or not. So if we have a lot of chaos, we are aligning to chaos. right? Maybe we're aligning to people pleasing over responsibility, something like that. But there's something that we're aligning to that's creating the byproduct of chaos or peace or quantum money leaps or. And so I'm always living in that question of what am I aligning to? So now, to your point, right? I'm now changing my language. I'm choosing to still be in the company to the degree that I am. And is that what I'm going to keep choosing? And if not, what am I aligning to? And then that choice of what I'm aligning to will allow me to call in what's going to be the resolution to, where I'm going next.
Nice.
So thanks for the coaching, Michelle.
And it wasn't meant to be so much coaching, so much as, there's so many people, because personal branding is a thing right now where people are going, like, even to some extent, the bigger companies, Bezos is the personality of his company, whether he likes it or not, to some extent, and Musk. And it's almost like we can't have a Coca-Cola company anymore. I mean, granted, Coke started in 1897, right? When you could do that. It's almost as if personality is becoming part of the weaving of the company, was more what I was getting at, not to
No, but well, however I took it,
coaching.
I just ran with it. But I hear you.
Awesome.
And it is actually interesting. And it reminds me even of Poo-Pourri with Susie Batiste, right? Here she's running this multi-billion-dollar company, but she still has to, well, I shouldn't say she has to, she's choosing to go out and be the face of the brand story so that people can be connecting her with that. And, I know she's doing a lot of speaking gigs. I don't know if she's done a book and stuff. I don't follow her that much. But I do think that we are doing that in part because, well, a lot of it I think has to do with the identity politics and stuff that's really been inflamed over the last few years, and people really want to know where you stand. So we know in 2020 when George Floyd was murdered, and without bringing that up too much, because I know it can still be traumatic for people to hear that, but we saw that there was kind of this line in the sand where people finally just said, enough talk. All of you folks keep telling us year after year you're going to do better. And we saw people like Ben and Jerry's come out, and let's be honest, the statement they released was amazing. Like, I could feel a vibrational charge reading that, like, holy shit. Like, I felt like they meant it, and they set the tone for what the expectation is, right? That's just an example. But we, maybe 10 years ago, we wouldn't have cared. I don't give a shit what Ben and Jerry say. We might have been in that mindset, right? But now people command it. They're like, we must know your position on these world events and where you stand.
Well, and how do you think that'll affect you if you're running, a multitude of companies? That, are you still kind of fingers in all the pies, or do you become kind of a what is the word I'm looking for? The like the social media person that promotes all these different companies, like, hey, I'm the promoter for the company and they happen to all be mine.
Yeah,
influencer.
What I do,
that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, I'm definitely not trying to be an influencer. No, it should be interesting. I'm glad you're asking this, because on Monday, I'm having my first official kickoff call for a TV show. So we tried to do that a few years ago, and then they changed the TV treatment, not the same company, right? But they changed the TV treatment, and I don't need to be famous. In fact, I mentioned I'm a hermit living in the forest. Like, I will be visible.
Dude, you live north of Toronto.
I know. I will be, I'm happy to be on camera. I'm happy to be doing tons of podcasts. I host podcasts. Like, I don't have a problem with visibility, but I'm not visible for visibility's sake. And I'm not visible because I need fame. I actually still am learning to be comfortable with people viewing me as a model for however they view me, right? But I am willing to do a TV show if it's in service. And so this last TV treatment they changed it a lot. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't need I don't need to compromise my personal brand for 15 minutes of fame. And so I put the thing on it, and I've been very clear with these guys. We have a contract. Like, listen, I'm driving the boat. Like, you this is not changing. It's just not. And I'm not going to be investing this much sweat equity, which is my time, and my time's super valuable, into something that, goes awry. So this is what we're doing. If this is what you want to be a part of, great. But point is that, yeah, I mean, there has to be some changes anyways to these companies, because I'm going to be busy doing that. As you can imagine, the influx of different things coming in are going to be just different, right? I won't be able to be in the company. It's going to force me to come out of the companies. Also astrologically, interestingly enough, and I don't often read for my business or myself, but I had a reading at the beginning of this year and it said like I'm going to have to significantly automate things this year and bring in other support because of just the direction of the business going. I'm meant to be doing like really, this is the year that I'm meant to serve the masses. I've known for a few years, but this is the year. So we're building a book together to accompany the show, right? So it'll be like a proper book deal and a proper TV show deal and that kind of thing. So with that in mind,
you're going to be busy.
With my other company, I knew when I bought it, just because intuitively I heard you're going to acquire 3 competitors within the first 3 years, and then you're going to sell it, right? So I will build that company to 8 figures and then I'll sell it, and it will hold its value, right? Just because of, I know how to do that. And then
well, and I'm going to stop you for 1 second. It'll hold its value because you have the systems in place, such that it can run itself. And to me, that is kind of, I don't know if I call it the nirvana of business or the nirvana of personal self-expression, is to be able to realize that you can make and create things and have somebody else take that idea, run with it, and that you still get to profit. Well, yes, profit from it, but I see profit as an exchange of value. So you profit from it in that a ton of people see value in this and they're rewarding you for it because you've created it and you've got it to a position where you can let it go.
Yeah.
I think that's huge.
That's the goal. I mean, maybe I will decide to keep it, but hire a CEO for it. And maybe I'll decide to take it public and actually allow clients to have first right of refusal, so to speak, on like a pre-IPO kind of situation or something, who knows. But it won't be something, it's not really feasible for me to do that. So I promote that mainly on LinkedIn because it's easier to separate. It's a business that's more appropriate for LinkedIn, which you and I were talking about privately, is the most boring party on the internet with the most amazing and interesting people in the room, right? It's the most fun place to be. But interestingly, when I switched over my other brand and just switched my profile and stuff to reflect this other company, it was amazing. It was night and day as to who flooded in, because we have a done for you service, right? We're booking people on podcasts and booking people on stages and brokering business deals and connecting people and stuff. So we're working with thought leaders and messengers and innovators and things like that. People are already searching for us, and people that identify with that are hanging out on LinkedIn, right? Instead of their VAs and stuff, it's actually them, for the most part, they're hanging out on LinkedIn. And then Facebook and Instagram, Pinterest, etc., is more of my woo brand. And it's way more established, right? It's this other company was, I think, 2 years old when I bought it. Whereas my company's 2 decades. I have 2 decades of SEO. I have 2 decades of a crazy amount of radio interviews and TV interviews and podcast interviews and blog posts and, all the things right on the internet. So it's just different. But I mean, at times I do feel a little schizophrenic for sure. It's not always easy to figure out what I'm doing for what. The cool thing about the other company is that it's a very, like, the service suite, or the suite of products, I should say, is so simple. It's so clear what we do. You're not, you will just absolutely not be unclear what happens when you land on our website. Everything about it is so clear. We're not trying to run a gazillion things. I'm not running challenges to try and fill it. I'm not running ads to try and fill it. It's just filling through referral partnership and so on. And then when we buy some other companies, right, then, that changes the value. And even still, we will still probably use the same strategies. So with a more of my company, I have to do some of these live events, and I have to do, sorry, let me rephrase that. I choose to. I find that it's more effective when there's a live component to some of the things that we're selling, because people want to connect with me, because they know I'm the founder of it and they admire, they're all Healy-Feely. So they're like, how did she do it? I'm a Healy-Feely. I've got to follow this woman to figure out how she did it. And so, people do want to be connecting with me directly. They do want to feel like I'm speaking to them directly, that I'm live, that I'm accessible, that I'm relatable, and various things like that.
Well, and as we were also discussing before the show, you have an energy that is very captivating. And I mean, all you have to do is walk in the room and people can feel it. So it becomes like that essence of the business is something that you can't replace. And that
Exactly.
is you,
Yeah.
whether
The
you like it or
business,
not.
because I thought about, well, what if I let one of the other teachers take over the training school, right? And we worked out some sort of financial arrangement. It would change. It doesn't mean it would be bad. It would just change because my name is so associated with that some of the reworking I'm going to need to do with this company, right? Meaning the company that I'm doing the TV show with, because like they took Mel Robbins from obscurity to where she is now. They took Grant Cardone from where he was to where he is now. So they're exponentializers, these folks. And I don't say that at all to sound cocky. It's just like I know
That's what they
what's
do.
coming. That's
Yep.
what they do. That's what they're good at. They were in the film
Mhm.
industry for a long time. They have all the connection, they know. And they have, all the connections and big publishing companies, all the big podcasts, like all the things, right? So it'll be an interesting journey this year, but we'll need to be chatting about what is my name going to be associated with and what is it not, and maybe I do have to bring in a CEO sooner than I thought for the entirety of the different companies, right? So that
Well, and I mean, it's kind of like you can't expect Tony Robbins to change his name, but at the same time, Richard Branson can run however many companies he runs, and
Yeah.
is definitely the face of the business, but not in the business. Right. And it's being able to identify kind of that fine line and how that works for you. Right. Because it's very important knowing that you're the generator, like how does that, because you're never not going to have ideas. You're never not going to have visions of something. So
what are you accusing me of? I feel attacked.
I think it's a beautiful thing. And it's like fireworks
true.
perpetually going off. It's you can't help yourself that you're fireworks.
Are you a generator as well?
I think so. Somebody keeps telling me and I keep forgetting. And somebody's getting really excited every time I get excited about talking to you. So that's muting. So give us
I do love animals. I do love my animals.
Give us an example of a Cinderella story of one of your clients. We would love to hear kind of some specifics as to what's going on for you.
Oh, gee. Well, the client that the most recent one-on-one client that just came in, she came in 6 weeks ago, and she's the one that I have the performance-based arrangement with. And so she created a 7-figure company in 13 months, which is crazy. And she had a lot of stuff going on before she came in. She shares this openly, right? So it's not, nobody's going to know who I'm talking about anyways, but she shares it openly that she was a heavy drinker up until 3 years ago, and she stopped cold turkey and started getting into mindset work and so on. And she tried Facebook ads at first, offering it as a service, and she was making money, but it was driving her batty, because we know, right? We know the expectations that people have, like you've got a crappy funnel and crappy graphics and crappy copy, but you think that we're going to be bringing you 100 clients a day kind of thing, right? It's not going to happen. So then she got into coaching, and that's where things really took off. And this is a woman that's not used to having a lot of money. She grew up very poor. And so she created this in 13 months. And she's very like, I just adore her. She's so flipping smart and innovative and so on, and a big thinker. I like working with people that operate in the field of possibilities. That's where I like to play. I'll help you understand what's blocking you from that, but where we're not hanging out in the muck. We're actually trying to get you back into the field of possibilities. And so we started working together 6 weeks ago. Within the first 3 weeks, she had already added like $250K to her income. She was getting nervous. Why she reached out to me was because things started to dry up, which can happen, right? Yeah. Especially when you grow that quickly. It's almost like you're tripping over your own feet, right? And just trying to catch up. And we're not always fully calibrated to that 7-figure energy, right? You get it. There's you can tell if someone's 7 figures because there's an embodiment. It's if they tell you they're 7 figures, that you can there's like a palpable texture to the energy almost, right? For the most part, right? Like I can pretty much tell how much people make based on how they show up, the caliber of questions they ask, whether they're talking about people or ideas. There's a certain degree of emotional and leadership IQ that comes along with income, increases. But anyways, and then she's posting online. And so we just spoke the other day. She's like, oh yeah, I just added another 300K. So in these 6 weeks of maybe 4 phone calls together, she's added 500 plus K to her bottom line.
That's awesome.
And her goal is to get to 8 figures, which is why
Mhm.
we're working together, right? But she had, but you know, what's interesting about her, and I'll share this because I know we can all, you know, check in with ourselves and see, is that she's willing to be in the emotion.
Mm.
We make emotions wrong, but whether you deal with our like, you know, when we get it kicked up when we're trying to do a leap, like whether we deal with the emotion or whether we don't, we're still not feeling good. What if we
Mm.
just leaned into that emotion for like 30 seconds and let it pass? Because they're like the weather. They're transient. They come and go. And, you know, we have all these phases. She her she has a high risk tolerance. I think that's important, right? Being
Mm.
able to be all in. And she is an all in. And she takes full responsibility. There's just no blaming or deflection or I'm here because this person did this to me or because this person isn't doing this with me or any of that kind of stuff, right? And she trusts herself.
Important.
Mm-hmm.
Vastly important. Jennifer, we have come to the end of our time, which sucks because I could stay here and talk to you forever. I am engrossed in the conversation. I'm like, what? Oh my God, I have to let you go. This is so sad.
No,
But I
don't let
know
me
that
go.
I know people are
Kidding.
going to want to start their journey with you. How did they do that?
I spend probably too much time on Facebook. I'm on all the socials, but you actually get me directly on Facebook. And so, just finding me on social media and sending a friend request or however that works, right? Sending me a message to let me know you listen. I'd be more than happy to hear that and say hello. I love saying hello to people. And then if you actually, you know, Michelle, I created a free assessment to help people just figure out how aligned they are to the new prosperity codes, right? Because it's a new world in post 2020, as we know, and there's new prosperity codes coming in. So if people go to souljourneys.ca/prosperity codes, it's a free assessment and you get to see how calibrated you are to these new prosperity codes. And then additionally, we send you a report of like some of the things you can do to shift that energy, right? So people are kind of digging that, and that's a great way to stay in touch because then you get to get yummy emails from me where I give you all kinds of prosperity pings and, you know, love ups and things like that.
I love it. So peeps, we will of course have Jennifer's links in the notes. Scroll down, go and click on those now, go check those out. But keep listening because we still have a little bit more because I still get to ask you, at what point in life did you know that you're a special kind of crazy enough to think that you could become an entrepreneur? You touched on it, but
Yeah, I think it was 5 years in, honestly.
that's
I
awesome.
still
Am I
felt
what?
like, what am I, do I belong? You know, I have the same feeling still at times in first class when I fly, as I did in the first few years, which is I'm waiting for the stewardess to come up to me and say, excuse me, miss, you don't belong here.
Aw.
And I don't mean that as a victim statement, right? It's just,
No,
you
it's
know,
just,
you heard my background, right? I'm not used
yeah.
to that. And I still kind of had that, I think, for the first few years, like someone was going to be like, this is cute and all, but isn't it time for you to get a job? Right. And I didn't have a plan B. I was all in, but I didn't really realize I was all in until about 5 years in.
That is awesome. I love it. Well, and I love hearing people's stories of kind of that understanding of we may realize that we're unemployable, that we're you know,
I'm
or that we have
totally
bigger things in
unemployable.
life and we're playing too small. It's like, okay, fine. I'll go do the thing that terrifies me
Yeah.
or whatever it is. I think it's just a really fun discovery process that we go through to kind of figure it out. It's like the moment we call ourselves a business owner as opposed to, I'm just doing this thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I was identifying as a healer, and I was already more than a healer. Nothing wrong with being a healer, but that's what
That's
I
awesome.
did. It wasn't as encompassing as it could have been.
Love it. You have been absolutely awesome. Thank you so much. Any last
Thank
words for our
you.
peeps?
Oh my goodness. I guess I'll leave you again with that whole zone of genius and zone of competence, right? And looking at what's the next thing that I'm doing that if I'm honest with myself, someone else can do for me so I can create more space and give myself more time to focus on the true zone of genius stuff. And because that's where we're really prosperous with it. We actually make more money when we're in our zone of genius.
Love it. Thank you again so much for your time. I appreciate it. And I know how valuable it is.
Thank you.
Awesome. Peeps, thank you for being here with us today. Be sure to subscribe to the show, share it with your friends. We love helping entrepreneurs grow. Thank you for listening to 7 to 8. If you're interested in upping your speaking game, be sure to connect with our guests with the links in the show notes, and connect with me to see how we can help you get your tech done for you and help your speaking dreams come true.